and welcome. I'm excited to share this presentation with you as part of my preparation for the Advanced Sommelier exam. Whether you're studying on your own journey, a curious enthusiast, or just here to explore, I hope you'll find value in what we cover today. In this video, we will be exploring California, covering the unique characteristics and stories behind its wines. Before we dive in, I want to highlight the trusted sources I used to create this presentation, some of my favorite wine books. If you're researching or expanding your wine knowledge, these are great resources to have on your shelf. Now let's get started and uncork the secrets of California. California is the largest source of American wine, producing about 90% of the nation's total output and accounting for 75% of every bottle sold in the United States. It ranks as the fourth largest wine producer in the world, trailing only behind Italy, France, and Spain. This dominance is rooted in a history filled with challenges and transformations. Wine production in California began in the 1770s with Franciscan missionaries planting vineyards of mission grapes, as native species like Vitis californica and Vitis giardiana proved unsuitable for winemaking. The mid-19th century gold rush brought a surge of population and capital, leading to a rapid expansion of vineyards, initially concentrated in Sonoma and Napa. During this period, Chinese laborers, paid a fraction of what their European-descended counterparts earned, were instrumental in constructing the magnificent cellars and fields that still grace the state. Early commercial successes included iconic wineries such as Buena Vista in 1857, Charles Krug 1861, Schramsberg 1862, and Inglenook 1879. By 1900, Sonoma, Napa, and Santa Clara counties were producing over 30 million gallons of wine annually, establishing California as a hub of American viticulture. Despite its growth, California's wine industry faced significant challenges in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The mid-1880s saw the first devastating wave of phylloxera, a root-destroying pest that decimated vineyards. Around the same time, grape prices fell below production costs, threatening the livelihoods of growers. A more significant blow came with the enactment of the Volstead Act, which introduced prohibition from January 16, 1920 to December 5, 1933. Prohibition halted commercial winemaking and forced many wineries to shut down, with only a few surviving by producing sacramental or medicinal wines. After Prohibition's repeal, the industry struggled to recover, with a focus on sweet wines and generic labels dominating the market. It wasn't until the 1970s and the 1980s that California experienced a resurgence, driven by a renewed emphasis on quality, varietal labeling, and the planting of more suitable grape varieties. This era of revitalization solidified the region's reputation as a leader in fine wine production. The modern era of California wine is marked by innovation and expansion. Land prices in Sonoma and Napa soared, pushing vineyards development into new regions such as Monterey, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and the Sierra foothills. Producers began focusing on a smaller selection of high-quality grape varieties, with Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay becoming household names. Research and education, spearheaded by institutions like the University of California, played a pivotal role in elevating viticultural practices. Efforts to combat a new strain of phylloxera in the 1980s led to the adoption of resistant rootstocks and replanting programs, further refining the industry's focus on excellence. This period also saw the rise of boutique wineries and a growing global interest in California wines. By 2013, the United States emerged as a powerhouse in wine exports, with California leading the charge. Key markets included the European Union, Canada, Japan, Hong Kong, and China, reflecting the state's global influence. Situated between latitudes 32.5 and 42 degrees north, it is a geographically expansive and viticulturally diverse state, with its southern portions in line with Morocco, Crete, and Syria, and its northern areas in line with Washington, D.C., Lisbon, southern Sardinia, and Beijing. It is the third largest state in the United States, covering an area approximately 3/4 the size of France, spanning as far as Portugal, Spain, the southern regions of France, most of Italy, all of Greece, Turkey, northern Morocco, Algeria, central China, and much of Japan. About 2/3 of California's length is planted with vineyards, showcasing a remarkable variety of soil types. This diversity allows winemakers to vinify vineyard blocks separately based on soil characteristics, enabling a precise focus on terroir. Many producers emphasize single vineyards, specific blocks, or clones, particularly with key grape varieties such as Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Merlot. The recognition and organization of California's wine region have evolved significantly. In 1983, the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, TTB, began holding hearings to establish American Viticultural Areas, AVAs. Before this, most wine regions were defined by county lines. Today, California is home to some of the most renowned AVAs in the world, including Napa, Sonoma, Santa Barbara, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, Mendocino, Amador, El Dorado, and Lake counties. These AVAs are organized into larger regional clusters, stretching stretching from north to south: the North Coast, Central Valley, Central Coast, Sierra Foothills, and South Coast. California's diverse climate regions, shaped by its predominantly Mediterranean climate, play a crucial role in its wine production. The state features a wide range of microclimates, from the warm, dry conditions of Napa Valley to the cool, foggy coastal influence of Santa Barbara and the hot summers of Mendocino. The Pacific Ocean is the most important climate moderator, and gaps in the coastal mountain ranges allow cool Pacific winds to penetrate inland, creating favorable conditions for viticulture. Rainfall varies significantly, with regions north of San Francisco receiving 24 to 45 inches annually, while areas south of the city see much lower totals, ranging from the low teens to about 20 inches. Droughts are a frequent challenge, with notable dry periods occurring from 2010 to 2014 and 1987 to 1992, the former being the driest in recorded history. Winters in California are generally temperate, but spring frosts present a threat to budding vines, mitigated by overhead sprinklers and wind machines. Additionally, spring rains can disrupt flowering and fruit set, further highlighting the complexities of managing vineyards in this dynamic environment. California is home to over 120 different grape varieties, with about 9 leading the charge. In 2013, the most planted varieties in the state were Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel, Merlot, Pinot Noir, French Colombard, Syrah, Sauvignon Blanc, and Pinot Gris. Among them, Cabernet Sauvignon holds a prominent place. First planted in California in the 1880s, it was immediately deemed a success, with Napa taking the lead from the outset. Sonoma, particularly regions like Alexander Valley and Sonoma Valley, followed closely behind, while Mendocino and the Central Coast also saw success, albeit to a lesser extent. Paso Robles stands out as the first region outside Napa and Sonoma to achieve prominent label placements. The most common clones found in California are clones 7, 8, and 11, originally brought from Bordeaux, possibly from Chateau Margaux, and saved from extinction by being used for sacramental wine production during Prohibition. UC Davis played a significant role in clearing the vines of disease. Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, Mendocino, and Lake County are regarded as the best regions for Cabernet Sauvignon. Zinfandel, originally known as Saralia Castellansky from Croatia, is another key variety. Known for its thin skin, large compact clusters, and vulnerability to rot in wet conditions, it almost became extinct in its homeland. Before finding fame in California, Zinfandel also gained a following in Puglia, as it is known as Primitivo. It was the most planted red grape in California until Cabernet Sauvignon surpassed it in 1998. Zinfandel wines produced from old vines, typically 80 years old or more, often command high prices in the market. The best sites for Zinfandel are typically dry-farmed hillsides such as those found in Dry Creek Valley, Russian River Valley, and Mendocino County, with Napa Valley also producing some high-regarded examples. Other notable regions include Paso Robles, Amador County, and Lodi. Merlot was not widely recognized as a high-quality grape before Prohibition, often used as a blending partner for Cabernet Sauvignon. It virtually disappeared from California vineyards between 1919 and 1969 until a few pioneering producers, including Louis Martini, Gundlach Bundschuh, and Duckhorn Vineyards, began experimenting with it again. This marked the start of Merlot's resurgence in California. By the 1990s, Merlot production and consumption gained significant momentum, with the grape being marketed as a more approachable alternative to Cabernet Sauvignon in restaurants. Between 1995 and 2003, Merlot acreage in California doubled from 26,000 to 52,000 acres. The most successful growing regions for Merlot have included Napa's Stag's Leap District, Oakno, Santa Ynez Valley, and parts of Carneros. Pinot Noir in California is often sourced from foggy coastal regions or high elevation sites, where the cooler temperatures help produce the best results. Carneros, Russian River Valley, and Santa Barbara were the first regions to establish themselves as Pinot Noir centers. In pursuit of greater purity of fruit, winemakers began to minimize oak influence, focusing instead on showcasing the grape's true character. Some of the early stars in California Pinot Noir include producers like Au Bon Clément, Davis Bynum, Gary Farewell, Rocchioli, and William Celium. The state's Pinot Noir vineyards also feature a diverse range of clones, with notable examples including Pommard, Dijon, and Wadensville. Syrah has been championed in California by the Rhone Rangers, a group of winemakers dedicated to Rhone varietals, and is celebrated for its fleshy, clean, and plum-scented wines. The first cuttings of Syrah were brought to California from France in 1936 by UC Davis, followed by additional imports from Australia in the 1970s, and later from Chapoutier in the Rhone Valley. These diverse sources contribute to the variety's versatility and success in California. Some of the best examples of Syrah can be found in regions such as Sierra Foothills, Santa Barbara County, Mendocino, and Dry Creek Valley. Chardonnay has a long history in California, with the Wente brothers growing the variety virtually unopposed in the Livermore Valley during the 1940s. The modern era for California Chardonnay began after the Judgment of Paris in 1976, which propelled California wines to international acclaim. Since 2001, there have been an estimated 1,500 different Chardonnay produced in each vintage. In the 1970s, Chardonnay was predominantly made in a lean style with minimal oak influence and little to no lees aging, emphasizing the fruit flavors and a more focused profile. This approach was largely driven by UC Davis and its graduates. As time went on, other winemakers began experimenting with oak aging and lees stirring, leading to the wide variety of Chardonnay styles seen today, ranging from luscious and full-bodied to more linear and crisp, and from bone-dry to deceivingly sugary. Some of the best examples of California Chardonnay come from Napa, Sonoma, Santa Barbara, and Monterey. Among the best clones, the Winter clone is known for ripening later and maintaining acidity, while Dijon clones tend to ripen earlier and lose acidity quicker. Sauvignon Blanc, referred to as the greatest white grape of California by Dr. Maynard Amerine, is produced in a variety of styles, with winemakers making decisions about oak usage, blends, and maturation techniques. It is a vigorous varietal that requires careful attention and labor to produce high-quality wines. While most examples of Sauvignon Blanc are relatively simple and made using stainless steel to preserve fresh fruit characteristics, higher-quality wines often involve more complex methods, including a combination of new and used oak, concrete eggs, stainless steel vats, and various yeast strains. The most commonly planted clone in California is Clone 1, believed to have originated from Bordeaux, though clones from Loire Valley such as Clone 530 and Sauvignon Musqué can also be found. Some of the best examples of California Sauvignon Blanc come from regions like Livermore, Sonoma, Napa, and Santa Barbara, where the variety thrives and produces wines with greater depth and complexity. Post-Prohibition viticulture in California initially followed relatively uniform practices, with head-trained, spur-pruned vines spaced 80 feet apart and rows 10 feet wide. Dry farming was common in the North Coast, while the San Joaquin Valley relied on flood irrigation. By the 1960s, vine training began to shift to wire systems, with cane pruning for lighter yielding plants and cordon systems for heavier yielding ones, alongside the adoption of overhead sprinkler irrigation. The AXR1 rootstock became the standard, and dense vine canopies were the norm. However, by the 1990s, the landscape of viticulture drastically evolved, driven by a new biotype of phylloxera, Pierce's disease, and a deeper understanding of soil types. Rootstock preferences shifted to Rupestre St. George, vine density was adjusted to align with soil structure, and canopy management became a critical focus for optimizing grape quality. Later years saw winemakers pursuing higher ripeness levels, harvesting grapes up to 27 degrees Brix, producing wines with alcohol levels as high as 16 degrees and pH of 3.7. To mitigate these effects and encourage fermentation, water is often added to lower alcohol levels below 16%, a practice permissible under California legislation. Meanwhile, changes in labor availability, exacerbated by intense anti-immigrant laws, led to significant reductions in the workforce, many of whom were of Mexican origin. This shift accelerated the adoption of machine harvesting, particularly in the North Coast, a practice already prevalent in the Central Valley and Monterey. Alongside these technological advancements, organic production has become increasingly common, with biodynamic practices gaining traction as growers strive for sustainability and environmental stewardship in California's vineyards. In California, winemaking lacked the long-standing tradition seen in other regions, so research, particularly from universities, became its guiding light. Fermentation quickly became the most studied aspect of winemaking, with temperature-controlled fermentation emerging in the 1940s. By the 1960s, stainless steel vats became popular, allowing for precise control of fermentation conditions, with each batch becoming a foundation for creating unique designer wines. While acidification had once been standard practice, it has since fallen out of favor as wine growing techniques evolved, guiding winemakers towards cooler, marginal coastal regions. Chaptalization, once a common practice, is no longer necessary or permitted. During the same period, the use of French oak barrels for aging and fermentation, particularly for white wines, became widespread. In the 1990s, studies suggested that the treatment of cooperage was more important than the origin of the oak, further advancing the industry. While oak chips, inner staves, and other treatments are common among bulk wine producers, red wines are primarily fermented in open-top tanks to allow for effective cap management. The 1980s also saw the rise of tannin management, leading to a variety of techniques, such as longer maceration with cooler temperatures to enhance extraction. Additionally, yeast research allowed winemakers to experiment with different strains or a combination of strains to achieve more controlled and desired fermentation outcomes. The most important wine type in California is single varietal, with most wineries focusing on production of high-quality wines. Bulk wine production, however, is largely dominated by a few large wineries, many of which source their grapes from the Central Valley. Traditional method sparkling wine has been produced in California since 1870 when Harasti made his first attempt, and the Czechoslovakian brothers Korbel were the first to make sparkling wines in the state in the 1890s. However, it wasn't until the 1970s when French producers began flocking to California that sparkling wine production truly expanded. Domaine Chandon, part of the Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy group, was the first, followed by other French producers like Piper Sonoma, Mumm Napa, Roederer Estate, Maison Deutz, Domaine Carneros, and Schaffenberger. Over time, Deutz and Piper Herzig moved out of the California sparkling wine business. California follows the American Viticultural Area AVA system, which ensures the geographic authenticity of the grapes used in winemaking. For wines labeled California, all grapes must come from within the state. Wines bearing a county name require at least 75% of the grapes originate from that county, while AVA labeled wines must use at least 85% of the grapes sourced from within the AVA. Single vineyard wines are held to an even higher standard, with 95% of the grapes required to come from the named vineyard. California's wine regions span from north to south, encompassing diverse climates and terroirs. The North Coast, including Mendocino, Lake, Sonoma, Napa, Marin, and Solano counties, is renowned for producing premium wines. Moving inland, the Sierra foothills, which covers Yuba, Nevada, Placer, El Dorado, Amador, Calaveras, Tuolumne, and Mariposa counties, is particularly celebrated for Zinfandel and other bold varietals. The Central Valley, which is not an AVA, includes areas such as Merritt Inland, Clarksburg, Lodi, River Junction, Madera, Fresno, and San Joaquin, and is known as a center for bulk wine production. Along the coast, the Central Coast region stretches from San Francisco through Santa Barbara and includes counties such as San Mateo, Monterey, and San Luis Obispo, offering an array of varietals and styles. For the south coast spans Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Orange, Riverside, and San Diego counties, region with historical importance in the early days of California winemaking and the home of Temecula AVA. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever visited California? What's your favorite wine producer from here? Let's keep this conversation moving forward. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you found this helpful, entertaining, or inspiring, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel or following me on Instagram. I'm aiming to share a new presentation every so often, so stay tuned for more wine adventures. Cheers and see you next time.